Lila stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, trying to convince herself the navy dress did not look as cheap as it felt. The fabric clung where it should have skimmed, and the hem hit her calves at an awkward length. She had rented it 3 days ago, picking the least expensive option that still counted as formal. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Jenna's name flashed across the screen. "You don't have to go," her best friend said the moment Lila answered. "You know that, right?" Lila tucked the phone between her shoulder and ear, reaching for mascara she'd borrowed from a coworker. "Dad asked me to come. He thinks it'll be good for networking. Your dad's sweet, but he's also delusional if he thinks Vanessa's corporate celebration is going to help your career." Jenna's voice carried the blunt honesty that had defined their friendship since college. "She's going to spend the whole night making sure everyone knows you're the disappointing sister." Lila wished she could argue, but the truth sat heavy. Vanessa had spent the last 2 weeks reminding her that her presence was barely tolerated. Patricia had been worse, cool and cutting at Sunday dinner, implying Lila should stay home rather than embarrass herself in front of important people. "I'm going," Lila said quietly. "Dad's been with the company for 23 years. This matters to him." Jenna exhaled. "Fine. Text me if it gets bad. I'll invent an emergency and give you an exit." After the call, Lila finished her makeup and slipped on the only heels she owned that could pass for evening wear. They pinched, but she'd learned comfort mattered less than looking acceptable around family. Downstairs, her father stood in the hallway adjusting his tie. James had more silver in his hair than brown now, lines deepening around his eyes. He smiled when he saw her, warm enough to remind Lila why she kept showing up. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," he said. Patricia's voice cut through the moment. "We're already late because of you." Her mother descended the stairs in a gown that looked effortless and expensive. Vanessa followed close behind, cream-colored and confident, the kind of polish that made Lila feel unfinished. "I was ready on time," Lila said. Patricia's gaze swept her dress. "Is that what you're wearing?" "Yes." "It's fine," James put in quickly. "We should go. Traffic will be heavy." The drive to the hotel took 30 minutes. Vanessa scrolled through her phone without acknowledging Lila. Patricia talked about which executives would be there, what names mattered, what conversations were worth having. "The loss and account representatives will be there," Patricia said, glancing at James. "Make a point to speak with them." "I will," James replied. Patricia turned slightly, eyes finding Lila in the mirror. "Try not to monopolize anyone's time. These people are here for business, not charity." Lila swallowed whatever response rose in her throat. The hotel rose against the city skyline, all glass and marble and soft gold light. Valets in matching uniforms rushed to open doors. Photographers clustered near the red carpet leading to the entrance. Vanessa moved ahead without waiting. Patricia followed, already smiling at someone she recognized. James lingered, offering Lila his arm. "Stay close," he murmured. "You belong here just as much as anyone else." Lila wanted to believe him. Inside, the lobby glittered with chandeliers and polished stone. Staff directed guests toward the ballroom. A check-in desk sat to the left of the entrance, staffed by 2 women in black suits with tablets in hand. Vanessa reached the desk first. Vanessa Hartwell, plus 2 guests. One receptionist smiled. "Of course, Ms. Hartwell. Welcome." Her fingers moved across the screen. "I have you and your parents listed here." Patricia stepped forward, satisfied. James followed, glancing back at Lila with an encouraging nod. Lila approached as her family started to move past. "Name?" the receptionist asked. "Lila Hartwell." The smile stayed in place as the woman scrolled. Her colleague leaned in. Seconds stretched. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said slowly. "I don't see your name here." Lila's stomach dropped. "I'm with the Hartwell party." "Yes, I see James, Patricia, and Vanessa Hartwell, plus 2 guests for Ms. Hartwell, but there's no additional entry for you." Vanessa turned back. "Is there a problem?" The receptionist glanced between them. "I'm confirming the guest list." "Lila isn't on the list?" Vanessa's voice carried across the lobby, loud enough to draw attention. She walked back, Patricia right behind her. "That's strange. I was sure I added her." The lie was delivered with perfect innocence. Lila saw the satisfaction behind it. Patricia's expression stayed neutral. Perhaps there was a mistake with the submission. I can check with the event coordinator, the receptionist offered, reaching for a phone. Don't bother, Vanessa said, dismissive. It's not that important. Lila can wait in the lounge. We'll sort it out later. Heat flooded Lila's face. Nearby guests slowed, watching with polite curiosity. James stepped forward. There has to be a way to fix this. She's my daughter. I understand, sir, the receptionist said, clearly uncomfortable. But without authorization, I can't allow entry. Hotel policy. This is ridiculous, James said, voice rising. She's family. James, don't make a scene, Patricia murmured, touching his arm. It's fine. Lila understands. Lila understood humiliation. She understood being made invisible. The receptionist glanced past Lila's shoulder, as if waiting for someone with authority to rescue the situation. A man in a headset whispered to the security guard. The guard's eyes stayed on Lila like she was the problem to be managed, not the person being set up. A security guard stepped forward, broad-shouldered and firm. Miss, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. You're blocking the check-in process. Lila's throat closed. Her father looked torn between fighting and folding. Her mother had already turned away, scanning the lobby as if the moment didn't involve her. Vanessa offered a small, apologetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'll just go, Lila heard herself say. She turned toward the exit, heels loud on marble. Each step felt like surrender. Outside, she stopped on the hotel steps and pulled out her phone with shaking hands. Through the glass doors, she saw Vanessa laugh at something someone said, already glowing with attention. Patricia leaned in, perfectly at home. James hovered at the edge of their orbit, trying to belong to the version of the night they preferred. She called Jenna. Voicemail. She tapped Jenna's voicemail and forced her voice steady. Hey, it's me. I'm outside the hotel. Call me when you can. She almost added more, but she couldn't shape the humiliation into words that wouldn't make her sound small. She ended the message and stared at the screen until it went dark. She considered ordering a ride, but the idea of waiting alone under the bright entrance lights made her chest tighten. She blinked hard, refusing tears. She could still feel the lobby's eyes on her skin, like the marble floor had memorized her embarrassment. In her head, she replayed Vanessa's voice, the way Patricia had said her name as if it came with an apology attached. Her hands ached. Traffic moved steadily along the street. People passed by, laughing, heading to dinners and shows, living evenings that didn't feel like punishment. A black car pulled up to the valet station, expensive but understated. The valet moved toward it immediately. Security straightened, attention sharpening. Lila barely noticed, thumbs hovering over her screen. The rear passenger door opened. A man stepped out, tall and broad in a dark suit that fit him perfectly. He moved with controlled certainty, as if the city around him had learned to make room. Something shifted in the air. Lila felt it low in her chest before she understood it, a pull that made her look up. He stopped on the curb, attention fixed on the entrance where she stood. Even from a distance, his eyes were an intense blue, and the way he looked at her made her forget how to breathe. A second man emerged from the driver's side, scanning the area with the focus of someone trained for danger. Lila should have looked away. She should have left. The man in the suit climbed the steps toward the entrance. As he passed, his gaze locked with hers, and for one impossible second, she felt seen in a way that made her skin tighten. Then he continued inside. Security parted without being asked. The receptionist looked up, their expression shifting from courtesy to something closer to deference. Lila watched him disappear through the doors, heart racing for reasons she couldn't explain. She didn't know who he was. She only knew the air felt different after he arrived. Ethan Reed had felt the pull 3 days ago while driving past the Midtown office complex, where his company held a minority stake. It had hit him like a physical force, the unmistakable snap of a mate bond waking up. He had Marcus turn the car around twice, circling the block while he tried to pinpoint the source. By the time they isolated it to the 6th floor, the sensation had faded to a low hum beneath his skin. Marcus pulled building records within an hour. 17 companies leased space on that floor. Cross-referencing employee databases took another day. Lila Hartwell. Human. 26 years old. Marketing analyst at a mid-sized consulting firm. No criminal record. No connection to the supernatural world. No awareness that werewolves existed outside of fiction. And his fated mate. Marcus had been blunt about the complications. The council won't support this. You know that. Ethan knew. An alpha king bonding with a human would send shockwaves through every pack in North America. It would be seen as weakness by some, opportunity by others. Rowan alone would use it to challenge his authority. None of it mattered. The bond was absolute, and Ethan hadn't reached his position by avoiding hard choices. He tracked her movements carefully over the next 3 days, staying far enough back that she wouldn't sense his presence but close enough to spot threats. When he learned she would attend tonight's gala, he adjusted his schedule. The event served a dual purpose: legitimate networking for his corporate holdings and a convenient cover for an informal alpha meeting to address Western territorial disputes. He had planned to arrive early, observe her from a distance, and decide on the best approach. A traffic delay and a last-minute call from Vancouver pushed his timeline back by 40 minutes, which meant he arrived just in time to see her standing alone on the hotel steps, her posture radiating humiliation. The bond surged, his wolf rising close to the surface in response to her distress. Marcus tensed beside him. "She's upset," Marcus said quietly, picking up the elevated heart rate and stress that humans couldn't hide from a shifter. "I know." Ethan's voice came out rougher than intended. He could smell salt on the air, tears she was fighting not to shed. Every instinct screamed at him to remove whatever had caused her pain. He forced himself to breathe, to think past the primitive drive. She didn't know him. She didn't know what she was to him. Approaching her directly could frighten her. But as he climbed the steps, he couldn't stop himself from meeting her eyes. The bond flared between them. Recognition, beyond thought. She felt it too. Confusion and awareness flickered across her face. Then he was past her, and through the doors. Marcus at his shoulder. The hotel staff reacted immediately. The security supervisor stepped forward, deferential. "Mr. Reed, we weren't expecting you for another 30 minutes. Traffic was lighter than anticipated," Ethan said, scanning the lobby. He located Lila's family near the elevator bank. An older man who resembled her standing beside 2 women whose body language suggested displeasure. At the reception desk, the 2 women checking in guests stood frozen, one still holding a phone halfway to her ear. "Is there a problem?" Ethan asked, tone mild, but carrying enough weight that conversations nearby dipped. The receptionist set the phone down carefully. "No, sir. We were resolving a guest list issue." "What kind of issue?" She hesitated, glancing toward the family by the elevators. The blonde woman, similar enough to Lila to be her sister, had turned to watch with poorly concealed interest. "A guest arrived who wasn't on the approved list," the receptionist explained. "We were about to contact the event coordinator to verify." Ethan stepped closer. Marcus held position slightly behind and to the left. "What's the guest's name?" "Lila Hartwell." Ethan let the silence stretch for 3 seconds, just long enough for everyone listening to understand the situation had changed. "And why isn't Ms. Hartwell on the list?" "I don't know, sir. The reservation was made under Vanessa Hartwell's name for herself and 2 guests. But Ms. Lila Hartwell isn't listed separately." Ethan turned to the blonde woman who had drifted closer. "Are you Vanessa Hartwell?" She smiled, calculated. "Yes, and you are?" "Ethan Reed." He didn't offer his hand. "I understand your sister was turned away from this event." Vanessa's smile faltered. "There was a misunderstanding with the guest list. I thought she was included, but apparently not." "Apparently." Ethan's tone made it clear he didn't believe her. He turned back to the receptionist. "Add Lila Hartwell to the list as my personal guest. Bill any associated fees to my account." The receptionist's fingers moved across the tablet immediately. "Of course, Mr. Reed. Right away." The older man Ethan had identified as Lila's father approached, relief and confusion mixing on his face. "That's very generous of you, Mr. Reed. But I don't believe you and Lila have met." "We haven't," Ethan agreed. "But I saw her outside, and it was clear there had been some kind of mistake. His gaze moved between Vanessa and the older woman beside her, their shared features marking mother and daughter. "I assume you'd want your family to attend together." The older woman's lips pressed into a thin line, but she said nothing. "Thank you," Lila's father said, extending his hand. "James Hartwell. This is my wife Patricia and my daughter Vanessa. I've been with Hartwell and Associates for 23 years. Ethan shook his hand briefly. "I'm familiar with your company's work. Ms. Hartwell's entry has been cleared," the receptionist announced. "Shall I send someone to bring her inside?" "I'll get her," Ethan said, already moving. Marcus followed him outside. Lila stood on the steps, phone in her hands, attention fixed on the screen, until she looked up and saw them. The bond pulled tight in Ethan's chest. Up close, she was even more affecting. Light brown eyes with flecks of gold, dark hair falling in waves, dignity holding steady despite the obvious distress. "Lila Hartwell?" Ethan asked. She blinked. "Yes, I'm Ethan Reed. There was an error with the guest list. It's been corrected. You're cleared to enter." Her confusion deepened. "I don't understand. Your name wasn't on the list," Ethan said, gentling his tone. "I added it. Why would you do that?" "Because everyone deserves to attend an event their family is part of," he said instead of the truth. "And because it seemed like your exclusion was intentional." Something shifted in her expression, vulnerability flickering and then being tucked away. "You don't know me." "No," he agreed, "but I'd like to change that." She stared at him, trying to make sense of a stranger stepping into her humiliation. Ethan could feel Marcus's attention on them both, his second assessing consequences. Finally, Lila slipped her phone into her purse. "Thank you. That was kind of you. Shall we?" Ethan gestured toward the entrance. She hesitated, then nodded. As they climbed the steps together, the bond settled into a low, steady hum of rightness. Inside, Lila's family had moved closer to the ballroom entrance. James stepped forward immediately, relief obvious. "Sweetheart, I'm so glad you're here." Patricia and Vanessa hung back, expressions carefully neutral. Vanessa's gaze followed them, sharp and assessing, as if she were recalculating every move she'd made tonight. Patricia said nothing, but the tightness around her mouth suggested she was already deciding who to blame for the shift in control. Ethan cataloged their body language. Patricia's jaw tight, Vanessa's hands curled. "Mr. Reed was very generous," James continued, glancing at Ethan. "How do you two know each other?" "We don't," Lila said before Ethan could respond. "Well, I'm grateful nonetheless," James said. "Please, let me buy you a drink. It's the least I can do." Ethan glanced at Marcus. A barely perceptible nod. The Alpha meeting wasn't scheduled to begin for another 40 minutes. "That would be fine," Ethan said. They moved into the ballroom together, James talking about company history and tonight's honorees. Lila walked beside her father, quiet but alert, awareness of Ethan's presence obvious in the way she glanced at him when she thought he wasn't looking. The ballroom was decorated in corporate elegance, round tables, formal settings, white flowers. A stage at the far end held a podium and projection screen. Guests mingled in clusters, conversation a steady buzz. Several people looked up as Ethan entered, recognition and calculation flickering across faces. What most humans didn't know was that at least a third of the guests present were shifters, alphas, and high-ranking betas from PACs across the region. To them, Ethan wasn't just wealthy. He was the Alpha King. Marcus drifted away to make contact with their people, movements casual enough not to draw attention. James led them to the bar, ordering drinks with the enthusiasm of someone grateful the lobby disaster hadn't become a headline. Lila accepted a glass of white wine, but barely touched it, attention drifting across the ballroom as if measuring exits. Ethan positioned himself where he could watch both her and the room. He felt alphas tracking him even as they maintained human conversations. Marcus had stationed himself near the northwest corner, speaking with Trevor Grant, alpha of the Seattle territory. "So, Mr. Reed," James said, "what brings you to tonight's event? Are you connected with the Lawson account?" "Peripherally," Ethan replied. It wasn't entirely untrue. "I'm here primarily for networking. Well, You've certainly made an impression. James glanced at his daughter. Lila works in marketing analysis. Perhaps you two should exchange cards. Lila's cheeks warmed. Dad, I'm sure Mr. Reed doesn't need marketing analysis. Actually, I'm always interested in strategic perspectives, Ethan said, meeting her eyes. The bond hummed between them, and her breath caught in a way she didn't seem able to control. Before Lila could respond, Vanessa appeared with Patricia in tow. Both women looked as if they'd spent the last few minutes rehearsing a new approach. Mr. Reed, Vanessa said, smile bright. I wanted to apologize again for the confusion earlier. And to introduce myself properly, I'm the senior account manager for the Whitmore division. Ethan nodded politely, but did not encourage further conversation. Patricia stepped forward, extending her hand with the grace of someone who treated social positioning as a second job. Patricia Hartwell, it's a pleasure to meet you. I have to say, your generosity toward Lila was unexpected but appreciated. The emphasis on unexpected carried a judgment. Ethan's wolf stirred, disliking the woman's tone. Family should be included in family events, Ethan said. Patricia's smile tightened. Of course, though sometimes guest lists have limitations. I'm sure you understand. I don't, actually. Ethan kept his voice pleasant, but the edge was unmistakable. When limitations are arbitrary, they stop being limitations and become choices. A brief, pointed silence followed. Vanessa recovered first, redirecting toward business and trying to attach herself to Ethan's attention. He answered with minimal engagement. Gaze pulled back to Lila again and again. Lila had stepped slightly away, posture suggesting she wanted to be anywhere else. James moved closer to her, murmuring softly, You okay, sweetheart? I'm fine, Lila said, but her voice lacked conviction. A man in an expensive suit approached, attention fixed on Patricia. Mrs. Hartwell, I've been hoping to speak with you about the spring campaign. Patricia's demeanor warmed instantly. Richard, how wonderful to see you. Let me introduce you to Ethan Reed. The next 20 minutes followed a predictable pattern. Patricia and Vanessa maneuvered through the crowd, introducing themselves to anyone who might advance their social or professional standing. When they encountered a particularly important guest, they pulled Lila into the circle with comments designed to shrink her. This is my younger daughter, Lila. She works in a much smaller firm, of course, but she's learning. Lila's still finding her footing professionally. It takes time. Unfortunately, Lila didn't have Vanessa's head for business, but she does try. Each comment landed like a small cut. Ethan watched Lila's shoulders tighten incrementally. James attempted to redirect, highlighting actual accomplishments, but Patricia spoke over him and Vanessa quickly shifted the topic. The third time it happened, Ethan intervened. They were speaking with a woman named Claire Donovan, who ran a marketing firm Ethan knew had struggled with client retention for the past 18 months. Vanessa had just finished explaining that Lila dabbled in market analysis when Ethan stepped into the conversation. Ms. Hartwell's work is more than dabbling, he said, tone carrying enough authority that the small circle immediately focused. I reviewed some campaign data from her firm last quarter. The conversion metrics on the Brennan account were impressive. Lila's eyes widened. Ethan hadn't reviewed it personally, but Marcus had pulled her performance reports during the background check. The numbers were real. Claire's interest sharpened. The Brennan account? I heard they increased market share significantly. 32% over 6 months, Ethan said, letting the figure land. He looked at Lila. Your analysis identified the demographic shift early. Lila stared at him, trying to understand how he could possibly know. Yes. We adjusted the targeting strategy. And it paid off, Ethan said. He turned to Claire. You should consider reaching out to her firm. They're doing innovative work in predictive modeling. Claire produced a business card immediately. I'd love to discuss this further. Are you available for coffee sometime this week? Lila accepted the card, visibly surprised. Of course. I'll email you. As Claire moved away, Patricia's expression shifted toward cold. Vanessa looked stunned. James was beaming. That was incredibly kind of you, James said to Ethan. Claire's firm is a major player. Ethan shrugged. I was stating facts. James hesitated, then added in a lower voice, as if admitting something he'd kept locked up. After what her ex did to her, she needed someone to see her clearly. He cheated, and then acted like she was the problem. Vanessa likes to call it a compatibility issue. It wasn't. James's jaw tightened. It was betrayal. Ethan's wolf went still and sharp inside him, pleased to have the truth confirmed from Lila's father. The pattern repeated over the next hour. Each time Patricia or Vanessa tried to undercut Lila, Ethan redirected to highlight her competence. Word spread among guests that Ethan Reed, whoever he was, had taken an obvious interest in the younger Hartwell daughter. It unsettled her. During a brief lull, Lila stepped away and pulled out her phone. She typed a quick message to Jenna with stiff fingers. Still at the gala. Long story. I'm okay. The message looked thin on the screen, but it was the truth she could afford. She hit send before she could talk herself out of it. Jenna would answer. Marcus appeared at Ethan's elbow. We need to move. The others are waiting. Ethan nodded. He turned to Lila, who was speaking quietly with her father. I need to step away for a meeting. Will you be all right? She looked surprised that he asked. I'm fine. Thank you for everything you've done tonight. I don't understand why, but thank you. I'll find you afterward, Ethan said. He left her with James and followed Marcus toward a service corridor leading to the hotel's conference level. The area had been reserved under one of Ethan's subsidiaries, providing privacy for the real purpose of tonight's gathering. 6 alphas waited in a windowless meeting room, along with their seconds. Ethan recognized them. Trevor from Seattle, Dominic from Portland, Kara from Sacramento, Isabel from Phoenix, Marcus from Denver, and Rowan from Vancouver. The moment Ethan entered, every alpha acknowledged him with subtle shifts in posture. He was the Alpha King, and ancient law placed final pack authority in his hands. Thank you for coming, Ethan said, taking the seat at the head of the table. Marcus stood behind him, role as second clearly defined. For the next 30 minutes, they discussed territorial disputes and resource allocations. A conflict between 2 packs in Northern California required mediation. Reports of rogue shifters in the Midwest needed attention. The conversation stayed controlled, each alpha presenting concerns and accepting rulings without open argument, until Rowan brought up what had clearly been on his mind. I notice you're spending considerable time with a human woman tonight, Rowan said, tone carefully neutral. The brunette in the navy dress. The room went quiet. Marcus tensed behind Ethan's chair. That's not pack business, Ethan replied. It becomes pack business if our Alpha King forms a bond with a human, Rowan pressed. You know what that would mean. The Council will see it as weakness. Other territories will question your judgment. Some may challenge your authority. Ethan leaned back, expression giving nothing away. Are you questioning my authority, Rowan? I'm questioning the wisdom of ignoring centuries of precedent, Rowan said. Human mates complicate everything. They don't understand our world. They can't defend themselves against our enemies. And bonding with one makes you vulnerable. She's his fated mate, Marcus said quietly. Silence fell heavy. Fated mates were rare and sacred. Rejecting one was unthinkable, but accepting a human fated mate was a political fracture. Then we have a serious problem, Rowan said finally. Ethan held Rowan's gaze across the table, letting the quiet stretch until the tension grew uncomfortable. What you consider a problem, I consider pack law. Fated mates are sacred. That supersedes political convenience. Sacred, yes, Rowan said, but not without consequences. You're asking every alpha in this room to support a bond that will make you a target. Human mates have been used against pack leaders before. Kidnapped, killed, turned into leverage. Then we protect her, Ethan replied. His tone made it clear the discussion was reaching its limit. Anyone who touches her answers to me personally. Kara, the Sacramento Alpha, watched him with cautious respect. With respect, King, Rowan raises valid concerns. A human mate won't understand pack dynamics. She won't know our enemies or our laws. That ignorance could get people hurt. She'll learn, Marcus said. And until she does, we tighten security. We've adjusted protocols before. We can do it again. Isabel leaned forward. What about the reveal? You can't hide what you are from a fated mate indefinitely. When she finds out, how do you think she'll react to learning werewolves exist? Ethan's jaw tightened. He did think about it. He thought about it too often. That's between me and her, he said. This meeting is about territorial disputes, not my personal life. Unless someone has concerns that actually fall under pack business, we're done here. No one spoke. Ethan stood. The others rose with him, hierarchy pulling their bodies into the shape of compliance. Keep me informed about Northern California, Ethan said to Dominic. And Rowan, if you have further concerns about my judgment, you're welcome to use council channels. Otherwise, consider the matter closed. Rowan's jaw flexed. He nodded. Understood. Ethan walked out with Marcus at his side, the hallway lighting stark after the windowless room. That could have gone worse, Marcus observed. It's not over, Ethan replied. Rowan will press this. He'll test boundaries until he finds a weak point. They took a service elevator down and re-entered the ballroom through a side entrance. The sound hit them first. Music, laughter, glassware, the constant hum of money talking to money. Ethan's attention found Lila quickly, because it always did now. She stood near a tall window, alone for the moment, posture rigid as if she had to keep herself braced against the room. Before he reached her, movement near the stage drew his eye. Hotel staff were adjusting the microphone and lighting with the hurried coordination of people responding to someone important. Vanessa climbed the steps and accepted the microphone from an event coordinator. Her smile was bright, her posture perfect, as if she'd been waiting for the room to quiet for her. Good evening, everyone, Vanessa said. I know we have formal speeches planned later, but I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge some special people in my life. Conversation dipped. Guests turned their heads. Lila stiffened and faced the stage, as if she recognized danger before it arrived. First, I want to thank my mother, Patricia, for her unwavering support throughout my career, Vanessa continued. Patricia beamed from a table near the front. And my father, James, who taught me the value of dedication. James's smile looked strained. More obligation than pride. His gaze flicked toward Lila, worry cutting through the politeness. Vanessa let the applause taper, and then softened her expression into something that pretended to be gentle. But I also want to acknowledge my sister Lila. Lila's had a difficult few years. Ethan felt the shift in Lila's breathing across the room. The bond tightened. Many of you may not know that she was engaged 2 years ago to a wonderful man named David Mercer, Vanessa went on. Lila's face drained of color. Unfortunately, that relationship ended when David realized they weren't compatible, Vanessa said, voice coated in sympathy so thin it turned sharp. It was especially hard for Lila because David left her for someone she considered a close friend. Betrayal like that can make trust difficult. A small ripple of murmurs moved through the ballroom. Pity, curiosity. The private pain of one woman turned into public entertainment. Ethan's wolf slammed against his restraint. The impulse was immediate and violent. Remove the threat. Make the room remember it was not safe to hunt what belonged to him. He moved before the thought finished forming, crossing the ballroom in long strides. Guests parted without understanding why. The shifters in the room felt him coming, their posture changing as instinct recognized authority. He climbed the stage steps and stopped beside Vanessa. Close up, he saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. May I? Ethan asked, hand extended. Vanessa hesitated, then handed him the microphone as if refusing would be worse. Ethan turned to face the room. The sound system carried his voice easily, but he didn't need it. His presence filled the space in a way that made even humans quiet. I'm Ethan Reed, he said, and I don't typically make public speeches, but I feel compelled to address what was just said. He let silence build. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Lila Hartwell's former engagement ended because her fiancé was unfaithful. Ethan's gaze swept across the guests. That is not a reflection on her worth. It's a reflection on his character. Vanessa's expression tightened. Patricia's smile faltered. James's eyes closed for a brief second, as if he'd been waiting for someone else to say what he hadn't. What takes courage isn't pretending betrayal didn't hurt, Ethan continued. It's showing up anyway, standing upright anyway, when the people who should protect you decide your pain is acceptable entertainment. The room stayed silent. Ethan knew some guests would be uncomfortable. Let them be. I've known Lila for only a few hours, he said, voice steady. In that time, I've seen enough to know she's talented, resilient, and deserving of respect. Anyone suggesting otherwise is revealing their own inadequacy, not hers. He handed the microphone back to Vanessa. Her fingers closed around it too late. The moment had already shifted away from her. Ethan descended the stage and walked straight to Lila. Her eyes were bright, teeth pressed into her lower lip as if she was trying to hold herself together with muscle and will. "Come with me," Ethan said, offering his hand. Lila stared at him for a beat, then took it. Her fingers were cold. They moved through the crowd, out a side door, and into a service corridor. Marcus appeared within seconds, taking point. Ethan didn't look back. He didn't need to. He could feel the room's attention like heat on his shoulders. Marcus led them to a staff-marked door and unlocked it with a keycard. The terrace beyond was small, private, and elevated above the street. City lights spilled in every direction. Lila pulled her hand free and went to the railing. She breathed in, then out, shoulders shaking once as if her body had to release something. "I'm sorry," she said, voice unsteady. "This is humiliating. You have nothing to apologize for," Ethan said. She turned, wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand, anger emerging beneath the hurt. "Why do you keep doing this? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why defend me in front of everyone?" Ethan held himself still, choosing each word. "Because what she did was cruel, and because you deserve better than being used like that. That doesn't explain how you knew about my work," Lila shot back, "or why everyone in that ballroom treats you like you own the building. Who are you really?" Before Ethan could answer, the terrace door opened. Marcus stepped out first, expression tight. Behind him came Rowan. "We need to talk," Rowan said, eyes locked on Ethan. "This isn't the time," Marcus replied, shifting subtly to block the path. "You just made a claim in front of half the pack leadership on this coast," Rowan said, voice controlled and sharp. "Do you understand what you've done?" The air thickened. Ethan felt the pressure of dominance rise in the space between them, a force humans couldn't name but could feel in the instinctive urge to step back. "Watch your tone," Ethan said quietly. Lila's gaze flicked between them, confusion turning into wary determination. "What is he talking about?" Rowan's attention cut toward her, dismissive. "Nothing that concerns you." Ethan's voice dropped into something that carried command. "Don't speak to her." Rowan's jaw flexed. His eyes held Ethan's for a long second, and then, with visible effort, he looked away. Not defeat, calculation. "This conversation isn't over," Rowan said. "Yes, it is," Ethan replied. Rowan left, shoulder brushing past Marcus. The door shut behind him. Lila stood close to the railing again, as if needing the barrier at her back. What just happened? Why did he back down? Ethan exchanged a glance with Marcus. Marcus's phone buzzed. He checked it, face darkening. "We have a problem." Building security flagged 3 vehicles circling the block. Occupants matched known associates of Rowan's pack. "He wouldn't be that stupid," Ethan said. "He's testing boundaries," Marcus replied. "And he knows she's here." Lila's breathing quickened. "Someone explain what's happening right now or I'm leaving." Ethan turned to her. "I need you to stay here for a few minutes while we handle something." "Handle what?" "A security concern." "That's not an answer," Lila said, voice sharpening. "If there's danger, say so." Marcus's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen and swore under his breath. Lila didn't wait for permission. She pushed past Marcus and walked back through the terrace door, heels striking tile with sharp, steady purpose. Ethan followed immediately, the mate bond pulling tight with her distress. She navigated the service corridor toward the ballroom, but instead of re-entering, she turned toward the lobby. Her movements were quick and controlled, and when Ethan caught up near the elevators, her eyes were bright with anger. "I'm leaving," she said. "Lila, wait." She spun to face him. "Wait for what? More men speaking around me like I'm not here? More threats you won't explain?" Before Ethan could answer, James appeared from the ballroom entrance. His face looked drawn, older than it had earlier. "Lila," he said softly. "Sweetheart, please don't go yet." "Why not?" Lila's voice cracked. "So Vanessa can do it again? So Mom can pretend she had no idea?" James flinched as if the words landed physically. He stepped closer, hands shaking slightly. You're right. About all of it. He swallowed hard. I should have stopped it years ago. The way they treat you, the way I let them. I kept telling myself it would get better, or that it wasn't my place to interfere, and that was cowardice. I'm sorry. Lila stared at him, grief and disbelief fighting across her face. Dad, let me finish, James said quickly. Tonight, seeing it in front of all those people, hearing what Mr. Reed said, his eyes flicked toward Ethan, gratitude mixed with shame. He was right. You deserve better. And I should have been the one saying it. Tears slipped down Lila's cheeks. She blinked them away, but more followed. Thank you, she said, voice small, for saying that. James pulled her into a hug. It wasn't perfect. It was late, but it was real. I'm going to do better, he promised into her hair. No more standing there while they cut you down. I can't change the past, but I can stop pretending I'm powerless. When they separated, Lila wiped her face with the heel of her palm. I still need to leave. I can't stay in that room right now. James nodded. I understand. Get home safe. I'll call you tomorrow. He squeezed her shoulder once. Then, with a deep breath that looked like resolve, he turned back toward the ballroom. Lila watched him go. Something in her posture eased, but she still looked like she was holding herself together by force. Ethan stepped closer. Let me drive you home. You don't need to do that. I know, Ethan said, but I want to. And after what just happened on that terrace, I'm not comfortable with you leaving alone. He kept his voice calm, but his eyes were steady. Please. Lila hesitated. Then she nodded once. Okay. She pulled out her phone and typed fast, sending Jenna a message before she could second-guess it. Leaving now. Call me when you can. Marcus appeared at Ethan's shoulder, phone in hand, expression clipped. The vehicles are still circling, 3 men in each. We take the South Service exit, Ethan said. Less foot traffic and fewer cameras. Your car follows. They moved through the hotel's lower-level corridors, away from the main lobby. Marcus walked ahead, scanning corners and exits with hard focus. In the parking garage, Ethan's car waited in a reserved spot near elevator access. The concrete space smelled of oil and cold air. Ethan opened the passenger door for Lila. She slid into the seat, exhaustion settling on her like weight. Marcus headed to the second vehicle parked nearby. Within moments, both cars were moving toward the ramp. Once they cleared the garage and merged onto city streets, the interior of Ethan's car felt unnaturally quiet. Lila stared out the window for a few blocks, as if anchoring herself in normal lights and normal buildings. Then she spoke. Who are you, really? Ethan kept his eyes on the road. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it, she said, tone edged with disbelief. Because I just watched a grown man look away from you like he was afraid. And your friend said things that sounded like threats. Ethan's jaw tightened. He could lie. He could stall. But the mate bond pushed against both options. Before he could answer, headlights flared in the rearview mirror. 2 vehicles accelerated from side streets, one sliding into position alongside, the other cutting in behind Marcus. Marcus's car surged closer, positioning defensively. Lila's voice went tight. What's happening? Ethan's senses sharpened, tracking distance, speed, angles. Hold on. The vehicle beside them matched pace. Through tinted glass, silhouettes shifted. Another car accelerated ahead, and then braked hard, forcing Ethan to slow. They were on a commercial street now, mostly empty at this hour. The car in front came to a stop, blocking the intersection. Ethan pulled to a controlled stop before he could be boxed in completely. His mind calculated 3 escape routes in half a second, and discarded 2 immediately. Stay in the car, he said. Lila's hands clenched in her lap. Call the police. Ethan glanced at her, choosing honesty over comfort. If I call the police, they arrive after it's over. They file reports, cameras get pulled, questions get asked. And if any of this becomes public, it won't protect you. It will paint a target you can't see. That makes no sense, Lila whispered. It will, Ethan said. Behind them, Marcus had stopped and already exited his vehicle. Ethan saw him in the mirror, moving with controlled readiness. Doors opened in the blocking vehicles. 6 men stepped out. They moved with coordination that marked them as pack, their attention fixed on Ethan's car. One approached the driver's side, posture aggressive. Ethan lowered his window just enough to hear. "Rowan sends a message," the man said. His voice carried the roughness of a wolf close to the surface. "Back off the human, or there will be consequences." Ethan's wolf surged. "Tell Rowan that threatening my mate is the last mistake he'll ever make," Ethan said. The word landed hard in the space. Lila made a small, stunned sound. "She's human," another man said, having circled to the passenger side to peer through the glass. "She doesn't even know what you are." "That's not your concern," Ethan said. The man at the driver's side leaned in, misjudging the situation the way foolish shifters always did when they believed numbers mattered more than rank. He reached through the window, aiming for Ethan's collar. The motion was fast. Ethan was faster. He caught the man's wrist and twisted, the movement precise. Bone cracked, sharp and unmistakable. The attacker let out a choked howl, staggering back and clutching his arm. At the same moment, the man on the passenger side slammed his fist into the window. The safety glass spiderwebbed, cracks racing outward from the point of impact. Lila gasped, pressing back against the seat. Her eyes were wide, locked on the fractured glass. Ethan was out of the car before the attacker could strike again. He crossed the short distance to the passenger side in a heartbeat, grabbed the man by the throat, and slammed him against the vehicle with controlled force. "You do not touch her," Ethan said. His voice carried something beneath the words, a command that vibrated through the air. The remaining attackers went still, instinct bowing to authority their minds didn't want to acknowledge. Marcus engaged 3 of them at once, moving with brutal economy, dropping one to a knee, forcing another backward, taking control of the third's balance with a twist that ended in a hard impact on the pavement. The last 2 men hesitated, caught between orders and survival. Ethan released the man he held. "Leave," he said. "Tell Rowan that if he wants to challenge me, he does it through council channels, not by sending men who can't think past their own pride." The attackers retreated to their vehicles. The one with the broken wrist cradled his arm. Within seconds, both cars pulled away, disappearing into the grid of city streets. Silence settled. Lila's breathing sounded too loud inside the car. Ethan returned to her door and opened it carefully, aware of the cracked window and the tremor in her hands. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "What are you?" Lila whispered. Marcus approached, eyes scanning the street even as he spoke. "We should move. Now." Ethan nodded, but he didn't take his eyes off Lila. She had seen too much. There was no returning to earlier lies. "There are things in this world most humans don't know about," Ethan said, voice steady. "Werewolves are real, Lila. And I'm one of them." Lila stared at him, mind fighting the words. "That's insane." "It is," Ethan admitted. "But you just watched men crack safety glass with their hands. You watched me stop them. You saw something you can't file under normal." Lila swallowed hard. "They called you mate. What does that mean?" The bond tightened in Ethan's chest, quiet and relentless. "It means you're important to me in ways that go deeper than choice or logic. It's a connection that exists at the core of what I am. We just met," Lila said, voice trembling with anger as much as fear. "I know." She stepped out of the car, needing air, needing solid ground under her feet. Ethan followed her, keeping enough space to respect her, but close enough to shield. "In my world," he said carefully, "there are hierarchies, packs led by alphas, and above all packs, there's a king. That's my position. I'm the Alpha King." Lila pressed her hands to her temples. "This is too much." "I'm sorry you were dragged into it without warning," Ethan said. "Now that you know, there are protections we need to put in place. What happened tonight wasn't random. You said you claimed me," Lila snapped, eyes flashing. "I'm not property. That's not what I meant," Ethan said immediately. "I meant I made it clear to my world that you matter to me, that hurting you has consequences." Lila's breath shook out of her, something between a laugh and a sob. "I didn't ask for any of this." "I know." She looked at him, chin lifting. "I need time. Time to process. Time to decide what I'm willing to accept. Her voice steadied as she spoke. And I need you to understand something. I'm not going to be passive in this. If I'm part of your world now, then I get to make choices about how that happens. Ethan felt something fierce and approving move through him. His wolf recognized strength. Agreed, he said. Lila held his gaze, refusing to look away first. Ethan took a breath. But I need you to understand something too. I will protect you, whether you want me to or not. That's not negotiable. They stood facing each other in the empty street, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. The mate bond hummed with potential and danger, and Ethan knew that everything had changed tonight in ways neither of them could fully predict.